Hello, welcome to another episode. I've kind of got a bit of a new look going on. I'm growing out my fringe, so I'm at that really awkward stage, but here we go. So, what's it like being British in Italy? Why is it so difficult? This is what I'm talking about in today's video because, don't get me wrong, I love living here. I've been living here for 4 years this year. I literally cannot believe how quickly the time has gone. But of course, as Brits, we're kind of a little bit unique, I think. We have certain characteristic traits, certain aspects of our personality that are wildly different compared to, you know, the people here in Italy and the lifestyle and just how the way things are here. So this is the reason why I think it can be a little bit difficult sometimes, especially if you come to live in Italy from the UK. Now, it's not just because of language, like that's the first sort of disclaimer I'm going to say, because yes, of course, language is key, and that is something that I've spoken about in many different videos, including this one up here, where, you know, it's so important that you can speak the language because, trust me, English is not widely spoken in every part of Italy. So that aside, there are some other aspects of life here in Italy that can be a little bit difficult for a Brit in particular, I think. Now, I want to start this video by saying, yes, this is a disclaimer. Like, I live in the south of Italy. I've spent 4 years of my life here in Italy, living in the south, and I'm very acutely aware that different regions and different parts of Italy vary wildly, not just in terms of the way people behave, but in terms of just the way things are done, and even the dialects are different in different parts of Italy. So I can only tell you my personal experience having lived in the south of Italy. Feel free to tell me in the comments below what your experiences are in other parts of Italy, but this is my personal experience having lived in the south of Italy for 4 years now. So let's talk about some of those difficulties, shall we? The first difficulty is bureaucracy, the elephant in the room. Ask anybody what it's like to live in Italy, and somewhere in the conversation, they will mention without a doubt bureaucracy. Now, it's not so much that I think bureaucracy is difficult. The more I think about it, I just think it's different. Like, the bureaucratic system here in Italy is so different compared to the UK. Considering the UK, a lot of our bureaucracy matters are dealt with online or via email or through a telephone call. Whereas here in Italy, it's very antiquated. For a lot of bureaucracy matters, you physically have to attend offices in person to get stuff done. Now, don't get me wrong, COVID helped a little bit with that situation because, of course, you know, it wasn't possible to visit government offices in person. So that was how, you know, they started to do more things online, but it certainly didn't begin that way before COVID. And even now, like, we're kind of navigating our way out of the other side of COVID, shall we say. You still have to do a lot of stuff in presence in person, and it's just so difficult. Like, if you come from a culture where, you know, you can conveniently and easily at your leisure sort stuff out online, to move to a country where it's the complete reverse can be totally frustrating and difficult and just really, I don't know, hard to get your head around, really, I think sometimes. Not to mention, like, the amount of time it takes. Like, for you to have to physically go in person to, like, all these different offices to get stuff done, it's time consuming. And, you know, consider that offices generally will be closed in the afternoon when everybody sleeps or has their lunch break. It adds to the frustration of trying to fit this in your day when you might have work commitments or other things that you have to do. So I think bureaucracy is an area that can be very frustrating for a Brit, just because in the UK it just feels a lot smoother, a lot more organised, and just a lot more modern, if I'm really honest. Now, the second difficulty for a Brit living in Italy is when it comes to road traffic matters. Now, there are two subcategories, shall we say, within this general topic. The first being crossing the road. You all know, if you've been following my channel for some time now, that crossing the road here in Italy is like my biggest bugbear, because Italian drivers just don't know how to stop their cars. Like, you can be standing at the designated point of the road where you are supposed to cross and people will just continue driving. It's very rare for somebody to stop for you to cross. And even when you are halfway across the road, people will continue driving towards you, not prepared to stop or let you pass. It's like something I've never dealt with in my life. Like, in the UK, we have the highway code. We have the rules of the road that you are supposed to adhere to. You know, there is that courtesy, there is that safety aspect, like when you cross the road. Like, you never feel like you put your life in your hands when you cross the road at the designated points. Of course, if you choose to cross in the middle of a very busy road where you're not supposed to be crossing, that's a completely different situation. But if you are crossing at the designated points where you are supposed to cross, you feel safe in those moments. But here in Italy, it's totally different. I think as well, like, you know, you just have to have like balls and gumption to cross the road here. Like, you can't be waiting for somebody to stop. You literally have to cross every single part of your body and hope that you're going to be okay crossing the road. And this can be very difficult for a Brit, because I think when you've come from a culture where people stop and let you cross the road and there's that kind of mutual respect, to a country where people just don't know how to do that, yeah, that's tough. And the second subcategory when it comes to road traffic matters comes down to the issue of parking. Oh my goodness, I have seen some of the craziest, insane parking that I've ever seen in my life since I've lived here in Italy. Consider people park across zebra crossings, people park in like the tiniest gaps, like practically on top of other cars. People will double park, triple park. Some people will park in the middle of the road where the island is. Like, it's absolutely insane. But it is literally something that just doesn't really happen in the UK at all. Like, in the UK, we have traffic wardens, and trust me, they are all about giving you a ticket and earning a little bit of money from it. So you can bet your bottom dollar that they are constantly looking for opportunities to issue tickets. And so people are a lot more considerate as to where they park. Now, of course, you can have people that park in a crazy way, but it's only ever in a temporary situation. You wouldn't walk down the street and see people parked across a zebra crossing or double, triple parked in a street. It just doesn't happen. And for this reason, it's just one of the craziest situations, I think, when you move to Italy and you see the standard of parking here. And of course, coupled with the fact that people double and triple park their cars, you constantly hear like the horns, the car horns being beeped when somebody's trying to move their car, but they're stuck, they're jammed in because everybody's decided to park around them in this crazy fashion. So yeah, it's really funny, I have to be honest, but totally different to what you can expect in the UK. So I think this is why it can be difficult. And I will give you a very recent example. So this morning, for example, I was just walking around Salerno, running a few errands, and the local police, and this is another complicated thing, like there are so many different departments and divisions of police here in Italy, completely different to how it is in the UK. But anyway, the local police were issuing tickets for people that were parking in these crazy ways. And this isn't something that's normally done on a regular basis here in Salerno, because everybody was on the street talking about it, pointing. It was like the biggest hoo-ha. You know, it's very different. Like, this is a normal situation in the UK. You will see traffic wardens on a daily basis. But here, it's like when the police start giving tickets for the way that you park, everybody's looking and talking and pointing, because it isn't a normal thing, especially not here in Salerno anyway. I always forget to do this, and I don't want to forget today. I would love for you to hit the subscribe button and support my channel, especially if you're considering moving to Italy, you love all things Italian, you want to know what real Italy is like. This is what my channel is about, so hit that subscribe button and share with your friends. The third difficulty that a Brit can have here in Italy is when it comes to the pace of life. Consider if you live in the UK, especially if you come from London, which, you know, is where I'm from, the pace of life, it's vibrant, it's energetic, like shops are open when you need them to be open, like they're 7 days a week, there's some kind of energy and some kind of vibe. And then you move, particularly here to the south, as I've mentioned, this is the perspective of my video here, and in the afternoon, everything just shuts up shop. And people go home, and you know, like you have that lull period where nothing's open and nobody's really doing anything other than eating or sleeping. And it's totally different to how it is in the UK. Like, literally, our lives are not centered around food. We still carry on even during lunch times. It's just so different, and it can be very difficult to adjust to, because if you are like me and you always have things you need to be doing, and you know, like you want to make the most of your day, it feels like your day is divided into 2 segments: before lunch and after lunch, and that's it. During lunch, which is pretty much the whole afternoon, nothing happens. And honestly, that's just totally different to how life is in the UK. It's in complete contrast. So that can be very difficult to adjust to as a Brit living in Italy. It's not even just like the pace of life when it comes to like shops and businesses, and also especially here in Salerno, people just tend to walk a lot slower too. Like, literally, I must look like a complete crazy woman, because whenever I've got to go somewhere, I'm like, like I'm running around like the road runner, like literally running around from here to there, overtaking people. I mean, the other day I was like taking it a bit slower, and an Italian person actually overtook me, and I was like, Jesus, Claire, you must be walking like really slow, because this never happens. So yeah, everything is just a lot slower and like that, but it's very difficult to adjust to, especially in the early stages. If you come from a culture like it is in the UK where things are very fast paced and constantly moving, it's very difficult to adjust to that slower style of living. So yes, I think this can be very difficult for a Brit living in Italy. The fourth thing that I think is difficult for a Brit living in Italy is when it comes to communication styles. Now, us Brits, we can be a little bit reserved. So we don't necessarily display our emotions in a very open manner. You know, of course, we can get angry and we can shout and we can make a scene, but it's not something that happens on a daily basis. Like, we tend to be very reserved in terms of our culture generally overall, whereas in Italy, oh good God, everybody is so passionate and opinionated and open with how they are and how they feel. And you know, it still takes me now, even 4 years in, at least 20 minutes to understand if Italians are arguing or they're just talking about something that they're happy about. Like, literally, it's that level of confusion in my mind, because we just don't communicate in the same way in the UK. Like, we are a lot calmer, we're a lot more reserved. We just don't every day talk with our hands. This doesn't happen in the UK. And we just generally conduct ourselves in a more reserved manner. And you know, I'll give you an example. Like, you will have Italians that will scream and shout at each other maybe for 20, 30 minutes, having a proper full-on argument. And then they'll be like, oh, let's go and have a chin-chin. Let's go and have an aperitivo. I mean, what? Like, this just doesn't happen in the UK. If you've spent 20, 30 minutes arguing with somebody, you give yourself some space. You're not ready to go down to the pub and have a little beer with them. Like, that's it, done, you're finished. You need a bit of time apart. My goodness, it's very difficult. This communication style, this life, this living is very, very difficult sometimes for us Brits. I think it's because there isn't a medium. That's what it feels like. There's no medium here in Italy. You are either passive or you're like full-on passionate aggressive. Like, there's no middle ground. And I think that's where it's so difficult for me as a Brit living here, because I feel like we have a bit more of a scale, if you like, of our emotions. Like, you know, you can be calm, you can be a little bit more angry, you can be full-on blowing your top. You know, there's just a scale, a sliding scale. It's not like from one extreme to the other, which is exactly what it feels like here in Italy. Yeah, that's totally, totally different. And then the fifth thing, which I'm going to talk about in this video, that can be very difficult for a Brit living in Italy, is when it comes to queues. That's right. And I'll tell you why this is something that doesn't really exist in Italy. It's a word that I often have to translate to my students in English because they don't know what it means, because why would you when it doesn't exist in Italy? A queue is basically an orderly line starting at the beginning, and the person who's at the end of the queue is the last person that's arrived. In Italy, this does not exist, especially in government buildings. I've queued in enough government offices now, organising all my residency statuses, to understand how it works here. People just hang about. It's like a mass sprawl of people. There's no immediate beginning and there's no immediate end. In fact, you will often find people when they arrive, they're like, who's last? L'ultimo, who's last? Like, because it's not immediately obvious. Whereas in the UK, you don't need to ask that question, because the person who's at the very end of the line is the last person. So this is very difficult for me to understand. Queuing just does not exist in Italy in the same way it does in the UK. And also, you will find as well, you have to have your wits about you, because I love old people, lots of love and respect for them, but trust me, they're very, very canny. They know what they're doing, because literally, if you're not careful, the little old lady that's very sweet that arrived like 30 minutes after you is suddenly 5 or 6 people ahead of you. You absolutely have to have your wits about you always. But yeah, queuing is not a thing here in Italy, and trust me, as a Brit, that's bloody tough to deal with, because we don't always like queuing, don't get me wrong. Like, we can be impatient, we can be like, come on, we've got things to do, but we do it, okay? We adhere to it and we do it. Nobody's happy to queue, but nobody likes a queue jumper either. If you think you're pushing in front of me and I've been queuing here for 10 minutes, I'm gonna have a problem. So, you know, it's really interesting. These are just 5 things. I'm definitely doing a part 2, because there are so many different aspects of life here in Italy that I think, particularly as a Brit, it can be very difficult to adjust to. So I think it's quite fun to explore some of those and talk about them in detail. But this is the end of this video. Have a look at some of this other content that I've created. Consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.